wanted to talk a bit about the stuff that I wish I had learned. When I'm trying to learn something, someone else can tell me something that is correct, and I can believe it's correct, but until I come to that realization on my own, it won't really click in my brain. So maybe some of this is stuff that you should just keep in mind, but it might not click until you get more experience in commanding, etc. Because it's stuff that took me a long time to learn, and it's mainly about strips. So most people think that in World of World you have like two categories, let's say support and DPS. But the truth is you have three categories if you wanted to like kind of broadly categorize it, which is you have support, you have DPS, and you have strips slash CC, let's say. Now, what is strips slash CC? That's stuff like warrior, mesmer, and necro. Even though necro still does damage, it does do less CC, but it's like strip damage instead of strip CC, right? If you had to like define it. So why is this important? I see a lot of people making mistake when it feels like you don't have damage, people add more damage classes. And often that's not going to help because you don't have what you need is you need strips, and strips are both a defensive and offensive tool. Of course, there is such a thing as having too much strips and not enough damage, but you need like to find the balance. And strips are both a defensive and an offensive tool because if you strip the enemy group and you drop some CCs like lines on them, or like static field, or like a thunderclap, any CC that you're gonna drop on them is gonna stop like their push. It's gonna be less damage. It's gonna be less pressure on your group. Come dodge right. Come out right. Come good. This is YOLO pushing. Just breach. This is fine. Just keep moving. Good job. Push to the gate. Lines to the gate. Strips on the gate. So our lines have effect. Good job.
So anyway, everyone.
So anyway, what was I saying? So basically, you need strips to facilitate your damage. Why? Not only because protection, also because you want to strip just other stuff as well, like regen. You want to strip stab. You want to strip resi, so that you can lock them down. And when you lock them down, they're not gonna be able to use their own defensive cooldowns. Like they will if they are immobbed, but if they are immobbed, that's like usually the thing with immob is it's a bit longer than like days or whatever. So it's immob is really effective in a lot of situations, and it helps you make people stuck because most of the time people are focusing on stab a lot and not on resi or cleanses. The thing is you need strips to facilitate both to help with your sustain so they don't take too much pressure, and you need, so let's call those like counter strips, and then you need like offensive strips to attack to facilitate your damage, right? So in those regards, what are the tools that you have? There's a couple of things that are gonna change with this upcoming patch. So that was the first topic. Let's segment it. So the first topic was why are strips important? And they are important because they do everything. They let everything else work. The second part that we want to talk about is ranges. Which ranges you want to use which strips. You have a couple of tools that you may have noticed commanders call. These are usually segmented into like shade spike or wells or breaches. It's those three categories because usually the crutch of your strips are the necros. Mesmer does strip, but Mesmer has like a null field. So usually it is, you have like a Mesmer, a warrior. Both of those, Mesmer has only like the pull and null field, right? So warrior and Mesmer are really melee strips when you think about it. Scourge is the only class that can really strip a lot at range. So the tools that the commanders usually use are shades, breach, and wells, because you can pair all of the other strips with those. So wells are like 900 range. Shades are 900 range as well. What is Shade Spike? Shade Spike is just like small damage. It's gonna be like a null field. It's gonna be like shades when you drop at range, and then you try to just drop pressure and continuously strip using those shades. There's like a rotation on Necro. There's a Laze video that you can watch on Necro that's really good for this. But that's besides the point. The thing is like you have a 900 range tool in the shades, and this is what I use most of the time when I want to put pressure, right? This is what you use when you want to strip in a spot, like in the chokes inside SM. The next tool is wells. The way I use wells, and the way I recommend that you use wells as well, especially in open tag. The thing is with open tag, you have to realize you're gonna have a mixed bag of DPS. So you're gonna have like a dragon hunter, but then the next person is gonna be a daredevil, then the next person is gonna be a berserker. So a wise commander once told me that pirate ship groups can melee but melee groups cannot pirate ship. What this means is a Dragon Hunter can still be effective in melee, but a Berserker, or rather, like, let's say a Daredevil or like a Spellbreaker, won't be effective at range. So the way that I like to drop wells, especially in open tags, the only group that can really, that I've seen drop wells effectively at like max range is people, because they gear for it, because they have a lot of druids immobilizing at range, CCing at range, they think the other classes CC at range, so you get stuck in their wells even at range. You can do that, but but in an open tag, especially on Gandara, you're most likely going to be successful if you drop wells and then push in. So wells are really, they're not always a melee tool, but you can use them and they're very effective when they're used as a melee tool, right? That's the thing that I wanted to talk about. What you want to do with wells is you want to lock people so that they continuously eat the strips. You want to lock them down so that they continuously eat the strips, they continuously eat the damage there, and they're just less likely to counter bomb in the spot where you drop their wells, or at least they won't be able to drop off their full counter bomb, because hopefully they will be CC'd like we talked earlier. You have like wells, which are a pre-push tool. You have shades, which are like a low cooldown tool that you can use at range, etc. And then you have breaches, which is like a full-on cell spike. Your movement is gonna be tied into those tools that you have, right? Does that make sense? So you're gonna try to get in a good position where you can push in a straight line, drop wells, bomb on them, or you're gonna try to get in a choke where you can drop shades down the range, or you're gonna try to, I don't know, bait their range spike, then turn around and counter range spike. Where do I drop wells? What are wells actually? Like, people always call for wells and it means just drop big damage, but it doesn't mean just drop big damage. It means more. There are situations where you can use them, and wells are best used when you see a group stops for a little bit too long. When you think that they will stop in a spot too long, if you drop wells, if they stay 1-2 seconds too long, it's over, right? You won. But if you drop wells and they move out immediately, you just wasted wells. So I always wondered where to drop wells, but this is like knowledge that you're gonna have your own playstyle. But yeah, if anyone has anything to add, I think those are just some basic tools that you want to use as a commander. And as a guild, you want to build those basic tools to be strong, at least one of them, right? So you want to build like a well bomb, like a really good well bomb, or you want to build like a really good range spike, or you want to build like a really good self spike. So it's really, you need the right combination of strips and damage to create downs and be effective, and it's gonna help both your sustain, it's gonna help both your damage a lot. So that's like the strips and the ranges. But the last thing I think I wanted to talk about is, when I was a new commander, I asked Kyle to give me tips on commanding, and he's still to this day the best commander that I have seen in this game. And he never gave me any tips about wells or anything. So maybe I'm just overcomplicating stuff for you guys here. He just said be entertaining. And I feel that's the best tip for a commander. Some things about like psychologically. If you are entertaining, good players will join you just so that they have fun. Because in the end, especially on Gandara, people want to have fun. And it's not always about winning. On Gandara, people are very prepared to support you even if you're like an inexperienced commander. So yeah, I think that pretty much concludes everything I had to say about commanding. Hopefully that helps. If anyone has any other questions or stuff, let me know. Because it took me like a long time to realize how I should use wells. Even though I knew in theory, it was like always a bit mystic to me until at some point it kind of clicked.
See, I always thought Wells was just a 900 spike.
You could use them that way, but let's say that there's an enemy group like here at 900, and you drop wells there, and they have good sustain, and they just see the wells, and they just 180 straight back out of them. That's the risk when you're dropping wells at range, unless they have a wall to their back, and that's like why it's bad to have a wall to your back. If you have a wall to your back, you can only go left or right. But if you don't, if you're in an open field, you can go back, you can go forward, and that's why it suits pirate ship, because you can just kite out of wells, or you can just kite range spikes better. Not every commander is gonna call wells and shades the way I do. The most important thing is that you trust your commander, and you drop the shades, and you drop the wells, and you drop the breaches, and you do the things that you think you should be doing in the situation where the commander wants you to do them. That's like the thing. Half of the time I'm not even commanding well. I'm just saying shit and people carry me because they can read my intention. As a commander, the easier it is to read your intention, the more so confidence plays a big part, just because if people know what you want to do and they know what you're going to do, then they can be a little bit predictive, and then they can sync their stuff much better. Confidence. So confidence plays a big part also because what happens, and especially on Gandara, which I really don't like. I think for this game you need to be not afraid to die. It's a video game. Nothing will happen if you die. And sometimes, sure, it can make sense to position yourself a little bit outside if you don't have like a good firebrand or you don't have a firebrand. You know you won't get stabbed. You know you can't tank the bomb. You just need to put yourself in a position where you can spike with the commander when the commander wants, and where you can avoid damage. But that's what you should be doing if you feel that you can survive. But what people often do is like they cloud. They stay way too back so they can spike when the commander needs them to. They stay way too often on the side, or they stay way too back and they get caught, etc. Right? Why compactness is needed is not just so it's also about absorbing damage, but it's also about people being able to spike together. Because if you're like a harmonica, what happens sometimes, open tag starts swiping, then people stop standing on the tag. I don't know if it's like psychological or on purpose or whatever, but you should always stack as close to the tag as you can. What happens is people start clouding a bit, then the people on the tag eat more damage, they die easier, then they start clouding a bit, and soon enough there's like people are clouding all over the place and doing their own thing, and in that case the commander might as well call it because there's no point in him being there. For open tags, I think it's important that you keep the morale up. Here's the thing: you attract the kind of people to the stuff that you want to do. So if you want to fight, you will, and if you go for fights, you will attract the people that know how to fight because they will join your tag more often and they have fun because they know you generate fights. But if you give up on fights and you say, okay, let's just go for PPT, and then you just PPT empty towers and stuff, and then soon enough you're gonna want to fight, but none of the fight people will be with your tag because they won't get up and make themselves a coffee to join your tag in the morning or in the evening. They'll just go to bed. If you just change borders and you decide, okay, fuck this, I'm going for PPT, then soon enough your tags will only attract the people who want to PPT and not the people who want to fight. And then if you ever want to fight again, it's gonna be hard to bring those people back. And yeah, I think maybe last thing I wanna say is that commanding is not that fun in the start, but the more you do it, the more you get just experience. A lot of it is experience. And so it's important to do tags regularly. If you want to do it, don't give up. It can really be fun. It can be a bit hard mentally sometimes, but Gandara is a really supportive server. Sometimes you will run into a few people like backseating you and stuff, and but it's just ignore them. You will learn things on your own as it goes. Nothing I can say here about commanding is gonna be as valuable info as the realizations that you make on your own.